All right. So Laila Ali and Claressa Shields. Laila Ali says Claressa Shields says Laila Ali wants $5 million for the fight. And Laila Ali says she's definitely interested in fighting, but she got to put a muzzle on Claressa Shields. Let's talk about what could be the biggest women's boxing match in the history of women's boxing, and one that I kind of hope gets made: Laila Ali versus Claressa Shields. Let's do that in this video. All right, so welcome back to the channel, and yes, we are still talking boxing. We do not change it up. And in this video, we're going to talk about Laila Ali's response to Claressa Shields and saying that she is definitely interested in that fight, and that fight needs to happen sooner than later. She's 42 right now, and she feels like she can still do it, but she's definitely not going to be fighting at 45. So let's get it cracking and make the fight. Now, a little background on these guys, on them before we do that. Laila Ali is, I consider her to be a pioneer in women's boxing. Women's boxing is funny because it kind of goes up and down. You know, it's very like boxing. Boxing is a star-driven sport, right? It's really, really good when there's a big star in the heavyweight division. There's big stars in the welterweight division, big stars in the lightweight division, right? And when there is not necessarily an exciting champion, you know, boxing can kind of have some difficulties, definitely in the United States. So even though Vladimir Klitschko was a great champion, you know, and on the charisma and on you know, as far as like the enjoyment of watching him fight, right? He won the fights, but they were kind of snooze fest, grab mugs and hold, you know. So, you know, boxing during that period of time with the heavyweights, it wasn't going so well because they didn't really provide the excitement there. Unlike times where you have a Muhammad Ali or you have a George Foreman knocking people out or a Mike Tyson knocking people out, right? That's kind of how boxing goes. So very personality driven sport, in my opinion. Women's boxing is no different, and their peaks and valleys are based on, you know, the personalities and the excitement that a particular fighter brings. There's a lot fewer women boxers, and the history is not as long, so you don't have as many. There has not been as many people that come through with those type of characteristics. But right now, we really do have two people that fit that bill in a retired Laila Ali and right now Claressa Shields. Laila Ali, when she turned professional, I don't think she had an amateur career, but I think can't remember who she was married to. She was married to somebody that was associated with boxing. And I think that her husband at the time, they decided that, you know, hey, let's use this Ali name and her athleticism, because the chick can fight. She's very athletic, and, you know, and make this push to be a professional boxer. You know, it was big news. It was followed by people like, Joe Frazier's daughter fighting, George Foreman's daughter, Frida fighting. Rest in peace to Frida Foreman. Right, and it was an exciting time in boxing. You also had Christy Martin, who had been really, you know, the coal miner's daughter, who had really been carrying the load for women's boxing for several years before that. You had, people like, I was gonna say Cecilia Brækhus, but I mean the other lady from up that way. Man, her name is skipping my mind right now. But, you know, the Ann Wolfs, Lucia Riker, that's who I'm looking like, Lucia Riker. You even had some, you know, like some wives of soap opera stars. Rest in peace, Christophe St. John. His wife, ex-wife Mia St. John, was boxing. So there was a lot of buzz around it. Then when those guys kind of went away, the female boxing went away. But then with Claressa Shields coming back and women's boxing being put into the Olympics, now you have another peak in women's boxing with Claressa Shields. The problem for Claressa Shields, though, is that Claressa Shields really doesn't have any other big name in her weight divisions that she can fight. There are other big names like Cecilia Brækhus, who's at 147 pounds, and Katie Taylor, who's at 135 pounds. But Claressa Shields started at 168, and about as low as she could get is 154. So that's a tougher fight to make. Now, however, though, the conversation around Laila Ali fighting Claressa Shields, I think, is a bigger fight than any other women's fight that can be made. I think it's bigger than Cecilia Brækhus and Katie Taylor. I think it's bigger than Claressa Shields versus Cecilia Brækhus. It's definitely bigger than, say Jessica McCaskill versus Katie Taylor, right? This is a very, very big fight, and it's one that I certainly hope that gets made. Now, Laila Ali is a funny chick because she was asked about it and she says, yeah, absolutely, I'm serious about it. Claressa Shields doesn't think Laila Ali is serious about it and that she's just bumping gums. But Laila Ali shared her thoughts on it and said, yeah, I'm absolutely positively serious about it. And now Claressa Shields is the one that said Laila Ali was looking for $5 million for the fight. I don't know if Claressa Shields believes that's the case. She's a better source on that than I am. So, hey, for the sake of this video, I'll go with her on it. $5 million. She wants $5 million for the fight, but Laila Ali saying that, look, there's not been any serious negotiations about this fight. There's been, bantering back and forth, but nobody's actually sat down and talked about making the fight. And she said that but right now she really doesn't want to sit down and have those serious conversations because of the fact that we're in the virus, the circumstance that we are, where we don't necessarily know when boxing is going to come back in full force. So that's her stance on it, and I think that is a reasonable stance on it. Now, Laila Ali also said that she believes the fight is going to be huge because there's not much work to do to sell the fight because Claressa Shields is going to do an excellent job in marketing and promoting that fight. But she said for right now, Laila Ali's not going to talk too much. She's just going to put a muzzle. She's going to put a muzzle on Claressa Shields. And, and I guess by that she means, not really engage in a lot of conversation about it. So, and not give Claressa Shields anything necessarily to talk about until it gets open, until there's an opportunity to really sit down, have a negotiation, and see if they're going to make that fight. Now, my take on the matter is I really do want to see that. I want to see that fight happen. And I want to see the fight happen for women's boxing because I really do like women's boxing. I think women's boxing should change some things in women's boxing that would make it more appealing. Now, and I don't, at risk of being, I don't want to come off sexist or whatever. So I'll leave some of the things that I think could change, but at the very least, they could, make not 2-minute rounds, make it 3-minute rounds so that you can get some knockouts, right? And then just go the full different distance fight, just like men go the same distance. That though having the short version fights for female boxing throws me off as a boxing fan because it's always the round is ending before I'm used to it ending. The fight is over before I expect it to be over. So I would love if they could fix those things and they could actually, catch up to women's MMA, which I do believe has surpassed, without a doubt, women's boxing as the main female combat sport. So much that you have a lot of women who are boxers thinking about moving into the MMA. And matter of fact, some of them have moved into the MMA and been very successful, I'm going to say Katie Holmes, man. Holly Holmes. I know Katie Holmes is the actress. Holly Holmes. So I certainly hope that, they make some changes to some of these rules that will will help women's boxing catch up to women's MMA. I don't know if women's boxing will ever catch up to men's boxing, but hey, man, with fights like this taking off, you can definitely get more interest of women for women to come to boxing and participate in boxing. And then the more talent that there is in women's boxing, the better it's going to be. Because right now, the women's boxing has like whole weight classes that don't have anybody in it. In fact, I don't even know if there's any active fighters between the weight classes of 168 and heavyweight. So it's like they skipped from 168 to 175 to one. Now, I don't know how big the women's heavyweight is, but I've seen them listed, all of those other weight classes like light, heavyweight, and cruiserweight listed, but they just go to heavyweight. So I'm not sure what the heavyweight weight limit is. I doubt that it is much over 200 pounds. But anyway, getting more women into the sport of boxing, I mean, it definitely will deepen the talent pool and give you more opportunity to have the personalities and things that push the fight. So I think that would be a great thing that could come out of the fight between Claressa Shields and Laila Ali. As far as those guys making money, dude, in that pay-per-view, if that's a pay-per-view fight, I'm paying for that pay-per-view fight without a doubt. You definitely have Laila Ali, who has a lot of cachet in her name from what she did as a pro and her father's name, and Claressa Shields is the best thing popping, best young thing popping in boxing right now. So I certainly hope that they make these fights. Take the muzzle off Claressa Shields, give the $5 million to Laila Ali, and let's make it happen. Anyway, it is what it is. That's my take on the situation. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.